Yes, folks, it has been donkey years since our last Nako, the rise of Africa, but we're back. Well, we're halfway back. It's Dumo and I here today. Dumo and I were joking offline, and I said maybe we should start calling this the C&D program because it's Chris and Dumo. Koketso is kind of knackered tonight. He's had a tough day, and Nzuzo is not available again yet to make an appearance in the program. I'm thinking maybe we have to do this show at 3 a.m. South Africa time on a Saturday in order to get everybody on the program at the same time with their busy work schedules. Dumo, what's the Hilijang? I know you're not a Tswana speaker, but anyway, how are you today?
I'm good. It's always great to be back on the show. Yeah, man, like it's, just to unload, just to speak about this country and what's happening in the world. It's just really good talking about it.
Yeah, and it's just nice to dump your troubles on a foreigner too, right? Well, that xenophobia going on in South Africa, you could dump your troubles on a foreigner. No, but seriously, hey, listen, I have an advanced copy. I don't know if you know about this, but I know you know that the African National Congress will hold its party conference in December of this year, in which they're due to elect a new president. At the moment, likely to be Cyril Ramaphosa. But I have got an advanced copy of their manifesto for this conference. I don't know. Have you seen this yet? It's called The Book of Useless Information.
Like, what's in that book? Is there anything in that book? Is it just an empty?
Yeah, Cyril Ramaphosa was born. Nobody cares. Okay. Oh, no. Wait. Here's this. Oh, chapter 6, empty ANC promises. We've learned from the PPE scandals. We will not steal the flood money. Oh, when you have to start addressing the public from day one, from the get-go, from Jump Street. We've learned about we will not steal the money. Then there's a problem. I'm just saying, man. In fact, we haven't been on since before the floods. I think the floods occurred after our last time we were on.
Right.
Yeah, so we can talk about that today too. But before we get any further, so listen. I'm very concerned about the safety of the president of South Africa. I mean, he had to flee from 600 people at Royal Bafokeng Stadium. It was a real tragedy. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. That was like, what was the worst thing was that the stadium was empty.
I know. I've been in that stadium. I was there for the FIFA World Cup when USA played Ghana, and it was like packed, man. I got pictures of me with 40,000 people around me, 50,000, and I look at that stadium. There's like 623 people.
And then you got like a small fraction of this ANC just humiliating, but intimidating the president, right? And I'm just like, this is just, it just shows these guys are becoming so irrelevant. No one cares. No one cares anymore. I mean, look, it's hard enough to fill up a stadium in a PSL game, but if the ANC can't fill it up, that's bad. That is really bad.
To be fair, it wasn't an ANC rally. It was Labor Day. It was May Day. The leftists love that. The unions around the world love May Day. We don't celebrate that in America, thank goodness. Our Labor Day is in September. We actually celebrate the contributions of people in the labor force, not, we hate capitalism. That's what May Day is, Pro, viva, che, viva, I don't know, Stalin, whoever, Putin, yeah, viva Putin, I don't know, but no, it was a COSATU, the Congress of the South African Trade Unions, meeting with the NUMSA, the National Union of Mine Workers South Africa, and they were not happy. It was funny. Amandla, I know you want your 1,000 rand. Go ahead, Dumo. What I do? Did I get it wrong?
No, you got it right. I think, okay, so when they say Amandla and everyone responds saying away to,
yes,
and then,
oh, you were waiting. You were okay. Well, let's do it correctly. I'll do it great. I'll give you a chance to respond. Amandla. Oh, okay, go ahead. Finish.
So, the funny thing is that they're supposed to say away to, right? Afterwards, but you could hear the defiance. Like you could hear a small section of the crowd said, "Oh, wait," but everyone was like, "Nah, what the hell? We're not going to respond to you." That was the funny thing about it. And then he's like, "Viva ANC, viva!" And then you hear a small section of the crowd going, "Viva!" And other guys are going, whatever, man. We want our money. No,
that's great. Let's do it correctly here. I'll play Cyril, and you can respond the way it's supposed to be done. You ready? Here we go. Amanda.
How it's supposed to be done, as in given given the situation in South Africa,
yeah,
or when everyone's happy.
when everyone's happy. So Amandla.
Await.
Amandla.
Await.
Amandla.
That's how.
By the way, how is it their 1,000 rand? Are they the ones laying out the capital and taking the risk and balancing the books and paying the bills? Look, I'm not unsympathetic to the miners, but the problem with Sibanye Stillwater, which of course the mining company we're talking about, is that the gold mines, and this was puzzling too. This was in the Platinum Belt that this protest took place. So I don't know if they brought miners in from the gold mines, but I mean, it's not the platinum mines. Sibanye Stillwater is making a lot of money. In fact, their CEO got a huge bonus, which arguably probably earned a lot of that, if not all of it, but it's mostly stock options, and the stock accrued. That's why he earned so much money. It's not because they gave him, $30 million. They're $2 million, 30 million rand. He got a 30 million rand bonus. It's because the stock accrued in value because the return on investment was so great from the Platinum Group, the Platinum Metals Group, PMG, but not from gold. The gold mines that they own are losing money. They're losing their butt on that. And why they're keeping it open, I understand. They ought to just sell it to BE business and be done with it. And be done. Let them deal with it. But the gold miners are the ones that want an increase. They want a 1,000 rand rise per month. And they want, and so Stillwater offered 800, or Sibanye Stillwater offered 800 plus 50 for living allowance. So the 850. So that's 85% of what they asked for, and they're not happy for a operation that's losing money. That's from a capital standpoint, it makes no sense. But if you want to make the bigger picture, which I think the union's doing, listen, they're part of a bigger group. That group is highly profitable. You should be paying them more. There's merit to both sides, but it was entertaining to see Ramaphosa. They don't get it. Dumo, they don't know how unpopular they are. He goes to KwaZulu-Natal. He was booed there too. What an idiot.
Exactly. And I think I just think that whatever PR exercise Ramaphosa is trying to do, it's a failing battle. I mean, look, I'm not saying that. I mean, what could happen is that in 2024, ANC wins by a massive margin. But right now, it's not looking good for them. I think that I really do think that people are just tired. I think the ANC is probably going to lose this, not because people are voting for other parties. People are just not going to vote. I am even on that camp of just not voting. But I'm thinking, wait. How many more people are going to think like me and the wrong thing happens? But people have just become so... they don't care anymore. I know people that are younger than me who have never voted before, and they'll just say, bruh, what's the point? They'll say to me, look, Dumo, I'm gonna go to the poll.
Nothing's gonna change.
Exactly, and I'm going to put an X. It doesn't matter where I put my X.
It all comes out the same in the wash.
Exactly. The same.
What's so sad about that, Dumo, is that for decades people struggled for the right to vote. They worked hard, especially for people who had dark skin pigmentation. And we know that coloreds and Indians were given the, kind of a fake vote in the 1980s, so they changed the constitution. But back in the day when the country was first formed, it wasn't based on skin color, it was based on land ownership. That was one of the things. So, but whatever the case is, for decades, from the 1920s at least until the 1990s, black South Africans did not have the vote. And in 94, 28 years ago, on the 27th of April, we saw people lined up, queued for kilometers. 98-year-old women who'd never had a chance to vote in their life, the first time they go to make their mark. And today, people are so apathetic. And for me, I find that inexcusable. If you want to have this kind of apathy, it needs to wait a century until after you fix things and things are more fair or more just, whatever the left likes to call things. But to do it in living memory, of an event that was just so recently. And I mean, look at the municipal elections. To be fair, municipal elections are not a high turnout in any country that's a democratic vote. I mean, here we typically get 30 to 40% of people show up, best case, for municipal elections. It just doesn't generate the interest, which is a shame because that's where your life is made better or worse, right there at the municipal level. Now in South Africa, it was 56% in 2019, which is very impressive. And the DA did bang up job in 2016. But in 2021, the turnout was 30%. 30%. Yeah. That's just sad. And I will blame South Africans, you South Africans have to fix this. You have to go to the polls. And I don't want to hear it doesn't change. Look, I vote every time too. And do you think I'm happy with Joe Biden? Do you think I'm happy with Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi and even, any of these clowns? But it doesn't matter. It's a responsibility. Johnny Engelbrecht just subscribed. Thank you, Johnny, for subscribing. And someone else subscribed a few moments ago. I think it was Kulenkani Magubane. Thank you, Magubane, for joining us. You have to vote. It's a civic responsibility. In Europe, they like to force it on people. It's mandatory. You must vote. No. You should have the desire and wherewithal to do it. In fact, I'm a judge of elections here, and yesterday I went for training because there's new things in each state. They changed the law, this, that, and the other policies changed. So I went to 4 hours of training yesterday, which wasn't too painful. And we went through this, and the lengths we go to ensure that people that need assistance to vote, for instance, paraplegics, we spent time talking about, and we should. But the point is that we go to great lengths to make sure everybody gets to cast their ballot, and we want to make sure the election's secure, which, of course, in America is a big issue these days. But people need to vote. I don't want to hear about it's not going to change things. That apathy is why it's the way it is. Look at this. Dumo, let's just imagine this, counterfactual. The 2016 elections, the DA secured 4,004,000 votes. That was pretty impressive. This election, they got 2.5 million in November. If they had just held on to 4 million, not even added any voters, some people have died, some people have just come of age to vote, but just stay steady. Let's say 4 million. If they kept that, they would have been nipping at the heels of the ANC. The ANC would have actually, with more people. Anyway, the point is that the only party that did well in this election was the Freedom Front Plus. I had Dr. Peter Groenewald on yesterday. We talked about that, about how they gained significantly in actual popular vote and in council seats. But the rest of them didn't do anything. Everyone keeps talking about it. The DA is like, we're the only major party that didn't lose anything. You lost 37% of the votes. You shed votes like COVID particles. You spread them. You're super spreaders. You spread apathy all over South Africa, DA. The ANC only lost 32% of their voters.
Right. Oof, that's concerning as well. I think, we're talking about now, we're only talking about the ANC losing votes, but the DA as well. Ever since the quote unquote Musi Maimane experiment, not to say that it was an experiment, but people are going to dub it as that.
Sure.
Given how the media frames the DA as a white party and stuff. And even when Musi Maimane was the president, I remember how even he was on the BBC in Britain, in London. And even them, they were saying, but why are you part of a white party? That's how they put it, right? And if the BBC is saying this, then that's a problem. Then that means that the propaganda's worked.
Oh, it has worked. It has worked. Well, just like for the years, the white monopoly capital fairy tale worked too.
Exactly. And wait, white monopoly cap? Oh, well, okay, sorry. My mind's going everywhere, but on white monopoly capital, people. I don't know if people realize that the term monopoly capital was actually coined by Stalin himself, and that has just been something that has just lived through the ages. And then the ANC or whoever, or communists rather, who whenever they get into trouble, they just put the word white in front of it, and now it's living its name, I guess. And then now going back to the DA, I am just also concerned because this is a party that I felt would always be nipping at the heels of the ANC. And it just seems that now it's not looking like that because
they've hit their plateau.
Right. That's a party, in my opinion. If they just stuck to its, classically liberal values, as they say they are, maybe they would have done better. But the problem was that now when they got Maimane as the president, and then Maimane started pushing all this left-wing rhetoric, that's when people started flying or leaving.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. They fled the party in droves.
Exactly. And then now you saw the Freedom Front Plus, they grew. Congratulations to them. And they looks like they're going from strength to strength. But going back to the DA, I just really think that I don't know if they're going to recover from this because you've got now, and here's the narrative, right?
Okay.
The narrative is you're a white party and you get a black token. And again, I'm just using the narrative term.
I got
I'm not
you.
saying
neither of us believe this nonsense. You're just sharing what the lunatics say on social media and the press. Go ahead.
just in case someone tries to clip this in.
Oh, they will. They will. They will. They'll probably accuse me of being a fake South African, pretending to be from South Africa when I've never made such a claim.
That's true.
They did before. When I interviewed Phil Craig 2 years ago, they took it and put on Twitter. They put up my broadcast link with my image, and they called me a fake British citizen pretending to be a Western Cape resident trying to break away from the country. I'm like, and then I played the clip, and it was Phil Craig talking. I'm like, what the hell is this, man? Why are you putting my? And actually, to be fair, I called them out on it, and they did remove the tweet, which that's rare. You rarely get a leftist that plays nice.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a shocker.
Wow, okay.
But I mean, come on, do your homework, man. I mean, do I sound South African? Wait. No, I can sound South African. We'll give you free houses, free electricity, free flights. Okay, now I sound South African.
Right. So, where was? Oh, yes. The narrative,
the DA,
right?
The narrative. Yeah,
Yes.
what they're saying about a white party, Musi Maimane.
Right. So you got that, right? And then now, Maimane becomes the president. Then Maimane starts pushing this left-wing rhetoric.
Yes.
Now, given the narrative and him pushing this left-wing rhetoric, when he started talking about white privilege and black poverty and everything like that, then it comes off even worse. That like, yes, it reaffirms the narrative. Like, look, you see, we told you. Then now, the people who were loyal to the DA and probably went to the FF Plus saw this as the DA leaving their core values. And then now they leave the party. Yep. And then on top of that, you got all people like Pumzile van Dam and all these other black leaders leaving the party and everything like that.
Herman
and
Mashaba.
then right. And then again, it reaffirms the fake narrative.
Yep.
And then you got their core leaving the party. And what did they say? Oh, yes. I remember someone even said that the core people leaving the party, like as in the guys that went to the FF Plus, it was the far right element of the DA that left to go to the FF Plus. And I was just like, oh my goodness, there's so much going on here. And there's so much of a spin that these guys can take apart. And it's confusing for someone who's just watching this. But for someone who just understands what's going on, they can see how people have spun this in many different directions. And I don't know if the DA is just going to recover. I just don't know. Like, I hope they do, but...
Well, I think the DA had a chance, and Steenhusien wasn't a bad choice, but I'm scratching my head wondering when the war zone is in the Cape Flats and the murder capital of South Africa is Cape Town, why John Steenhusien is in Lvov, Ukraine for 6 days on a fact-finding mission. If the DA actually cares about what's going on there, send some minor functionary, send someone from the party to go and do research, or heck, pay me a few rand. I'll go do the research for you. But John Steenhusien, leader of the party, that's just, it's simple. The municipal elections, this is, so I probably never get more DA candidates back on the program, we'll see. But I mean, I castigated the DA with, I think, good reason. The face of the municipal election was John Steenhusien. And Helen Zille less to a less extent, mostly Nelson Mandela Bay, which they failed miserably. They went from 45% of the vote in 2016 to 38% in 2021. They should have won Nelson Mandela Bay outright. People saw when the DA controlled the city how services are restored. Now there's sewage running the streets, there are children starving to death, malnutrition and hunger and death because they're not taking 62 million rand that they had and spending it. You know, it's and the DA can't win an election like that with their big gun Helen Zille coming out and a significant colored population. And because let's be honest, the DA may have a lot of white faces in leadership, but it's a colored party. I mean, you've got to be honest about it. If you're going to term a party based on color, if we're going to play that game, the majority of voters for the DA are colored South Africans. There are black and white who vote in Indian, but most of their voters are in the Western Cape, and most of their voters, and even in Gauteng, they have whatever colors have migrated up to Gauteng, they've got that vote as well. So, you know, seeing John Steenhusien is the only face, and they blew it. They had, what's his name? The DJ, the rapper, Brady B, not what's his name? Anyway, he did that fantastic song, you know, we're tired of excuses. My people want solutions. That was fantastic. Do you even know which video I'm talking about? The DA started their election campaign 3 months in advance. Early B did a video, and it was fantastic. You know, my people are tired of excuses. They want solutions. And it just disappeared. I have more views on a joke video that I did on YouTube than that video has on YouTube.
Yo
is right. And I'm shadow banned.
Exactly.
That's pathetic, man. I mean, the song is incredible. They should have been pimping this and promoting it all over the place, especially in Afrikaans-speaking locations where whites and coloreds who speak Afrikaans would.
Oh, now I remember that video. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was a brilliant video. It's great lyrics. I love it. And then they squandered. And then instead of seeing Chris Pappas on there, his face, instead of seeing Refiwe, I can't pronounce her last name, from the one who ran in oh, gosh bless it, Ikerhelini. She was running for mayor, and then Refiwe, she pulled out, and then it wound up being, yeah. So Refiwe, she's brilliant. That woman is brilliant. And by the way, she's black, but she's absolutely brilliant. She's articulate, she's talented, she's thoughtful, she's accomplished, and it's not, oh, here's your star because of your skin pigmentation. She earned her way. And this, why aren't those people out there? Instead, you get people like, Musi Maimane, all these people who want to talk about racism. Funny how they score Afrikaner wives, Isn't that fascinating? They're all hooking up with Afrikaner women. They're talking about racism and knocking out, brown kids. Come on, man. Knock it off. It's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, that's actually interesting. Like
Tokyo Sexwale married his attorney from apartheid. She's a white Afrikaner.
Wow. I mean, it's now that you're mentioning this stuff, I mean, I can imagine.
Sia Khaleesi whined about being forced to learn Afrikaans for lineouts. Married to an Afrikaner. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember when I played rugby, we had to learn a bit of Afrikaans.
Of course.
I mean, we had a coach who was not that fluent in English, right?
Right.
So we had to kind of adjust, and he had to adjust as well. I mean, we learned a bit of Afrikaans here and there. That was fun. But I mean, we weren't look, Afrikaans. I mean, generally, if you go to, let's say, a suburban public school, you're going to have to learn English or Afrikaans. That was just the name of the game.
Yeah.
It was a struggle that we were willing to accept, and that was fine. Now, going back to these guys marrying a white woman, no problem with that, of course. If you find love, you find
whatever.
Yeah.
You find love, yeah.
But this is the awkward part, right? This is the real awkward part. You are going and you're talking about white privilege and black poverty. Now, given that whole narrative and that whole thought pattern with regards to that, did Musi Maimane go to his wife and say, listen, honey, I'm going to be doing a speech on white privilege and stuff. And I need to actually, say these things. Now, I wonder what he said to his wife. Did he actually say to his wife that he actually believes this stuff or that he doesn't? Because honestly, if you're going to preach that stuff and you're married to a white person, that's really going to ruin the relationship, isn't it? I mean, it's like, how can you function in a relationship thinking that? I remember I was watching this one PragerU. Was it PragerU? Mm-hmm. I think was it PragerU?
Yeah, probably.
It might have been a PragerU video where this white guy, he was with his black wife, and he's like, my wife benefits from my white privilege. That's what he said. And I was like, oh my goodness. So, and then he's like, and this is why when I'm at the airport, I'm always with my wife. So I put my hand on her shoulder, and I'm paraphrasing, so that people can see that she's with me, and therefore she can benefit from my white privilege. I'm like, my word. The racism in that is incredible. How can
at a minimum the bigotry is off the charts.
Exactly. And I was just like, oh my goodness. You actually saying this with a straight face. I thought it was a parody.
No,
I'm like, no, this has to be a joke. This has to be a joke.
These people, these extreme left people are just demented. They say stupid things. And you and I were joking just before this. I told you about the video I just published about this woman named Amanda Duarte, who is an actress, but I can only find 3 films to her credit, one of which is a documentary 20 years ago. So I'm not sure what kind of, I've done more acting and I'm in more movies. I'm actually in movies with credits than she is, from my knowledge. I've been in 4 movies, including, but anyway, so, and I'm not really an actor. But anyway, so she's apparently an actress, and people are saying she writes for the New York Times. She's a journalist. No. I would call her a contributor. I've found articles that she wrote about RuPaul and about English baking, cake baking show. So I'd call her a New York Times contributor. So I just did a video on her. She did a video in which she goes off. It's really vile. She says, I wonder what these white supremacist lawmakers would do if their daughters were raped and impregnated. Now, if she stopped there, this is about abortion and Roe versus Wade, because there was something on Monday. If she'd stopped there, it would have been offensive to a lot of people. But then she had to finish the sentence, by black men. Oh! I feel like a Simpsons episode. Doi! South Park, man. This guy's going to have a blast with this. Oh, my goodness. I mean, by black men, can you not see how, at a minimum, insensitive such a remark would be to everybody, to white women, to white men, to black men, to black women, to everybody on the planet who doesn't judge people based on their skin pigmentation. Anyway, but this is what the leftists get away with. They get away with this. So she published an apology, said what I said was racist. I apologize, I didn't mean to offend anybody. And then she deleted her account. It's gone. She's disappeared from the internet. Right now they're busy, digitally wiping all the drives with her name and every article about her. She's like, I mean, if the FBI and CIA and NSA went looking for her, they might not be able to find her. That's how well they've hidden her in just 48 hours. But I mean, they get away with this stuff all the time. And look at some of the people that Ronaldo's always going off on his Twitter account. Yeah. I just, but here's the thing with Musi Maimane. Here to be the deal. So Musi Maimane's wife applies for a tender with her company. She starts a company with services and she applies for a tender with the government. It's denied because she's not BEE compliant. His children apply for contracts or university positions with the government, but they're denied because they're brown, not black. Well, what about this? So Toke Sexwale is fabulously wealthy. His kids are mixed race. They're not colored. Folks, if you're not from South Africa, let's make this distinction. Colored and mixed race are not the same thing. Yes, colored people are mixed race if you want to play the racist game, but colored people are a distinct ethnic group that grew out of the couplings, voluntary and sometimes not voluntary, in the Western Cape, include mostly Khoi, San, and Europeans. There are some black African mixed in there occasionally, but they tend to be Dutch Calvinists. They tend to speak Afrikaans overwhelmingly, and they tend to have familial lines that link back to a lot of Europeans. And they also have very distinct facial figurations and oftentimes skin coloration. So you can oftentimes look at a person and go, aha, that person's colored, just based on their mannerisms and things. So mixed race would be someone who's black and white or, whatever, take your pick, and they have a kid. That's not colored. Some people, we need to be distinct about that. Colored is an ethnicity, not a skin pigmentation. And mixed race is a combination of folks from different backgrounds who have kids, like Musi Maimane and his wife, or Sia Khaleesi and his wife. But anyway, so, it's Toke Sexwale's kids. He's a multimillionaire. The guy's fabulously wealthy. But they qualify under BEE, technically, because it depends which level you. It used to be that colored South or mixed race South Africans were better off, but now who knows? But anyway, the point is that why should they get advantage? They're half white. Can they only have half the contract?
It's gonna be interesting how they handle that, really. And remember now, if his wife does get the contract, they'll say it's because of white privilege anyway. So
exactly.
So
it's lose no matter what.
Exactly. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So
it's fun, man. It's funny the evolution of these terms. Like when I got to Liberia, where was that? I think it was Liberia. People were saying mulatto. I had heard that since I was a kid, because that's what Liberians say when someone's mixed. They call them mulattoes. I mean, it's an old Spanish Portuguese term. And then I hear people in Africa, in East Africa, say half caste. Yeah. That's but it's normal for them. That's the vernacular. So when bouncing around Africa, I got to be careful which term I'm using. Right.
I heard someone even say that when they went into Africa and they saw mixed race people, they called them 0.5s. I was like, what? 0.5? I was like, oh my goodness, guys, that is hectic. And for me, I just don't like using those terms. I'm just like, it's your
people can be especially today. You can have 87 genders at the same time, and you can identify whatever you want to be. We have fake black people in America who are white pretending to be black, putting cornrows in their hair and getting black privilege from affirmative action, and fake Indians like Pocahontas Elizabeth Warren in the Senate. But Dumo, I think you've heard this before. I identify as a lampshade. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah. No, this is the first time I'm hearing this.
No, I identify as a lampshade because I shine light on the world.
I love that.
No, but seriously, it's okay. So look, let's go back to something else here. We're having a little bit of fun with this, but folks, you're listening to Nako, the rise, or the call of Africa, I should say, not the rise. Africa's been rising forever, according to the pundits. We'll see if it actually gets there. One day it will. But it's the call of Africa, and you got 50% of the team here tonight, Dumo Denga and myself, Chris Wyatt. He is, of course, in Gauteng, and I am in Central Pennsylvania, which isn't anything like Gauteng at all. We have electricity. We have electricity, and potholes are rarities. They are here, but they're rarities. They aren't the norm. By the way, Duma, did you hear this? Before I go back, I want to talk about the floods, but did you hear this? I saw this. I've driven in all over Southern Africa where people drive on the left-hand side of the road. And, I've been in New Zealand and Ireland and the UK and where people drive on that side of the road. And of course, most of the rest of the world drives on the right-hand side of the road. But I saw something the other day that said that South Africans do not drive on the left-hand side of the road. Did you hear this? They don't drive on the left-hand side of the road.
No, this is the first time hearing of this.
They do not drive on the left side of the road. They drive on what's left of the road.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, I don't know if you saw that video where there was a pothole.
Oh, I do with the broom handle.
Exactly.
It was in Pretoria, and the little kids are out there playing, walking around the street. I mean, you can hear a little kid talking. Oh my gosh!
I mean, someone can drown in that thing. Someone can.
A child could drown in that thing easily, and a car could collapse into there. Exactly. Oh my god!
I mean, honestly, as I said before, driving in Gauteng now. Oh, you know what? Look, it's worse than Mthatha, right? But yeah. But here, I cannot believe it. It's like it reminds me of Mthatha. In fact, because when you go there, Mthatha is the worst. Like the potholes, they are crazy. But in Gauteng, it's just deteriorating, and it's like playing Temple Run. That's what it is. You have to drive at 20 kilometers an hour now. That's really what you have to do, because there's you may never know. You turn the corner, there's something there. I mean, going to Randburg, there's something there. It's crazy. I can't handle it.
And that's before you even have people trying to murder and kill you by throwing cinder blocks on the road to disable your vehicle. I mean, I remember that on the R21 a few years ago. They were doing that. That was pretty frightening. Tossing cinder blocks out in the road and would disable cars and people pulled over. They would drag the occupants off into the bush and then rape them. Men and women were getting gang raped and robbed. Did you know about this?
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, I heard about it. It was the R21. It happened to 30 or 40 people over a period of time when the cops finally started patrolling and putting surveillance out there to put an end to it. It's pretty frightening. They would drop these cinder blocks out there. You're driving along. It's nighttime. You can't see it, or it appears in front of you. It blows your tire or damages your radiator. You pull over and you're drug off into the bush and raped. And they were raping men and women. They didn't care. It was just horrible. Well, I mean, years ago, this is now, gosh, that must have been about 2005, I think it was. The trains running up through Gauteng there, not the Hau train, but just the regular trains. There were people going on the trains and grabbing people and throwing them to their death off the trains. This happened a couple dozen times over a period of about 4 or 5 months, and the world didn't report it. I reported on it because I was in intelligence committee reporting about these things, and it was quite frightening. And these things are just forgotten about, and no one talks about them. But can you imagine such a thing?
Yeah, I actually can.
Yeah, that's the sad part. That's the sad part.
I remember the one time when I was still working at South African Airways, right? Yep. And I was leaving work, and I went on the Gau train. Mm-hmm. Now there's a station called the Rhodesfield Station, right? Okay. So there's now, if you look at the Rhodesfield has a metro rail station and a Gau train station. Okay. Almost like it's now, I don't want to use apartheid terms, but look, honestly, if you didn't know better and you just woke up there and you still think it's apartheid, you would have thought the Gau train was for whites and the metro rails for blacks. That's how distinct it is. Now, what you can see is while you're waiting for your train at the Rhodesfield station at the top, you can peek over and you'll see the metro rail. Now, what I saw, the contrast between where I was and what is happening there was like heaven and hell, right? As the train was approaching, as leaving, there were people running, right, and jumping on the train, because I think they didn't want to pay for the ticket or something like that. Right. And I was just like, man, this is crazy, right? I couldn't believe this. It was just like, I just could not believe it. And I was just like, no, this is like 110% wrong. You can't continue like this. And I can imagine how many people actually got injured doing that. And if there were people that did get injured or eventually actually died, was this even reported on? Yeah. Maybe because people be like, oh yeah, that happens every day. People die there, It's like, it's probably so common. But yeah, I was shocked when I saw something like that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I saw that video that someone's passed around. Someone's driving in a car in South Africa behind a fuel tanker. It was raining, and this idiot was in a trolley, a shopping trolley from like ShopRite or Checkers, behind the fuel truck holding on.
Oh, now, yeah.
Did you see that? I mean, those wheels, it just takes this and it flips over and you're crushed or dead, And he's smiling. What a moron. I mean, this is when the Darwin Awards come into play. Some people just aren't bright enough to exist on this planet. It's just, but I mean, look, we can find people like that all over the world, but that was just a brilliant job, whoever caught that. But in the rain, too. I mean, it's just, oh, my goodness, it was crazy. I don't know if you saw this, but some idiot tried to attack Dave Chappelle on stage last night.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that, and I saw in a video of how he looked afterwards.
Oh, his arm is bent, broke forward like this. I mean, they beat the living crap out of him, man.
Ow! I don't even know. Wow! It's like, really? Yeah. Is that him? I thought that was just another video, but that was actually the guy. That was
the guy out there on the stretcher, and his arm. It's like his elbow was twisted around back. Like, this is completely broken. Is this whatever that conjunction of bones there? The arm's just hanging there. So I mean, they beat the living crap out of him. You could see it. Some people's videos, you can see them when they chased him back the backstage. Chappelle's still on stage. He's talking to Jamie Foxx and others and joking around, and you can see him back here just punching and kicking and beating the hell out of the guy. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about, but boy, I think he was telling trans jokes, and that's when they went off on. Yeah, he said, man, these trans people really get upset easily, or something like that.
And then someone comes and tackles him.
No, he said that after he was they tried to tackle him.
After he was okay.
No, Chappelle didn't miss a beat. Listen, I mean, I'm torn on Dave Chappelle. I actually went to the Improv in Baltimore when I was stationed at National Security Agency, and I paid like $75 for a ticket. That's a lot of money for a ticket. I mean, I don't pay that much for a concert, and I'm hard-pressed to pay that much for a Rugby World Cup game unless it's a Springboks, and even then I'm crying about how much money I'm spending. But $75, I went to watch this. He was playing at the Improv in Baltimore, and he walks out on stage, and he's stoned out of his mind. He can't even he couldn't complete a sentence. He was obviously smoking weed back there for God so long. But about 10, 15, 20, I couldn't take it anymore. I just got up and left. People were booing him. Everything was horrible. And it was so disrespectful. And so I've never had a positive opinion of Dave Chappelle. Right. I will give him a little bit of slack when he started going after the left for the stupidity, and then they came after him. Anybody that the left comes after has to have some value to the character. Yeah. But anyway.
No, I was unaware of that. But that's also disrespectful. Like when you performing and stuff, and then you high off the bat, really. I mean, I'm pretty sure you...
I mean, I'm sure that's part of his shtick. He talks about weed and, you take a few puffs, I'm not in favor of it, but if that's your thing, and it gets you going for the show. But I mean, he was out of his mind, bombed. I mean, he couldn't even perform, and I didn't get my money back. I mean, $75 plus my time wasted going there, my evening wasted. It was, it's not around the corner. So plus it's not in the safest part of town. So I took a risk parking my car down there,
Exactly.
So, but no, it's very, very disrespectful when a performer does that and doesn't, just doesn't give their best. But no, but so this guy jumped him on stage last night. Chappelle didn't miss a beat, man. I guess these trans people are really upset easily. God. Oh my goodness. It's crazy, man. Okay, the floods. Let's get to the floods. Okay, so let me recap real quick for everybody. A couple weeks ago, just before the weekend came, meteorologists in southern Africa warned that a massive amount of rainfall was going to hit KwaZulu-Natal province in particular. And when they did that, the South African government did what it usually does. Nothing. Anyway, so so what happened was the flood came. It was a huge flood. And we saw massive amounts of rain. Some localities had over 300 millimeters of rainfall in 24 hours. Folks, that's a lot of rain. That's 30 centimeters. That's a lot of rain. So for some parts of KwaZulu-Natal, that would represent about 5 months worth of rainfall in 24 hours. That's a lot. So here's the thing. People have been moving into land that's not designated for residential purposes because it's dodgy, it's unsafe, it's floodplains, it's riverbeds and things like that. And they were wiped out. Over 400 people are dead now as a consequence. People washed out to sea, their bodies never found, still to this day. What a horrific mess. Even upscale places where drainage wiped out entire, just tore stuff away. Lots of terrible things happened. But quite frankly, this natural disaster, which was bad, but hardly biblical in the sense of the worst one that KZN has seen. Even in recent memory, the 2019 and 2017 especially, floods were very bad. This happens. It's a subtropical region. There's lots of rainfall. These things happen. We've also seen Madagascar and Malawi and Mozambique battered by tropical storms, Batsarai, and all these for the last 6 weeks. So it should not have come as a shock. They should have been prepared. But they weren't. And 2 weeks after the event, the SANDF is still not there. Now, I don't know where they're at now, but this is a few days ago. After 14 days, they still only had 400 people in there, which was the advance party. Their search and rescue teams had to be pulled from all over the country long after people were dead. All they're doing is they're basically body cadaver searches, and you're not finding anyone alive. The search and rescue team should have been on the ground in the first 15, 20 minutes, hour after the rain stopped, and they could get in there. The point is they were unprepared. It's a disaster of epic proportions. It's a human disaster. by failed governance and by failed action by the state. I mean, part of the problem here is that storm drains haven't been cleaned in ages. They're full of rubbish and trash and bicycles and tires and tree branches, and the water can't flow through them. And all of that would have had a mitigating factor here. And they have stupid things like Toyota has its plant in Durban. Instead of, with the rain coming, taking their new vehicles, loading up on trucks and driving them out of there to a safe place that's, out of a floodplain, they left it on a floodplain next to a poorly constructed canal, and they lost hundreds of vehicles, millions of dollars worth of inventory gone. The stupidity involved in this, it's a natural disaster exacerbated by human failure, and the human failure is the African National Congress at national, provincial, and municipal level. Dumo, your turn to get in there. Thoughts on this whole mess?
Right. I remember I spoke about this on the Big Daddy Liberty show. And
well, I wasn't invited.
And what I got from there was that it seems that when it comes to weather reporting, you're not allowed, a private person is not allowed to say, hey, there's a big storm coming, get prepared. So I remember before I used to get SMSs from my insurance company.
Yes.
And they would say, hey guys, there's a hailstorm coming. Or okay, they wouldn't say there is one. They'll say, hey, there's a high probability of a hailstorm coming. Just make sure that your vehicle is in a covered area so that you don't get dimples on your car the next day, right?
Yep.
Well, they didn't add that part of it. That's just me saying that,
yeah.
Right? And then as a result, you would prepare accordingly. But apparently, they're not allowed to do that because that must only be done by the South African Weather Service. I don't know, some organization.
This is what communists do. They centralize everything and then fail at everything.
Exactly. Then now, these guys didn't send out any messages and stuff like that. And apparently, the meteorologist that said that, hey, there's heavy rainfall coming, apparently that person hid his identity because he was too scared that if he actually did broadcast such a message of that nature, he could actually go to jail. And that does happen. And it's a sad event. And now this storm occurs. And when the rainfall ends and, people have died and so forth. I mean, Gift of the Givers were like the first ones at the scene,
yep,
helping people out. That was interesting. And then on top of that, what was very sad was that especially in the areas where they had, let's say, shacks or informal settlements. Yeah. Yes. Where informal settlements were built, a lot of them were built in these places where the floods hit. It got so bad that a lot of the bodies got covered by rubble and mud and everything like that, that people had to dig through layers of mud to find people. And also, how did they know someone was actually buried under there? Was from the decomposition smell. Mm-hmm. And some of it, and that's another sad part. Then on top of that, there was aid that was meant to be given to these people. And guess what? Then Sihle Zigalala, the premier of KZN, looks like he got water. It was at his place. And then he cooked up. Okay, well, let me not say cooked up a story because obviously that's it was alleged that there was a water tanker at his house that was providing water to him exclusively. And he said that no, they were supposed to give me water first. And sorry, I'm lying. The allegation was that
wait a second. We'll give you an honorary ANC card.
The allegation, if I was not mistaken, was that his wife needed food to cook for like the community and stuff like that. That's why they needed a lot of water. And then he withdrew that statement, and then he came up with another story. I mean, it was quite clear that even with the management of the relief, the people that benefited first were the premiers and so forth. And that also it was also problematic. And it just shows you really what happens in these situations. As you said, they centralize everything. And then when the disaster does come along, the people that benefit first are the ones that are closest to the party. And then if there's anything left, the people that are supposed to get the assistance will get the scraps. And I remember there was even an account that was, a bank account that was posted on social media to say, hey, please deposit into this bank account. It was a government-related account. And everyone was like, that money's gone. It's gone. So whatever money has been assigned to it, it is gone. I don't think it will go to anyone for assistance, if there was any. But that's the reputation that the ANC has built. And also Ramaphosa, or the president, let me say the president, because he's the president. The president called a national state of disaster for the floods. And now technically the floods did actually occur also in Eastern Cape as well, in some parts of the Eastern Cape. But why call a national state of disaster? Well, it's just very interesting that, the
excuse was that the events in the province affect the entire country because the port of Durban is so important. But if that's the case, why didn't you declare a national disaster when you had an internal insurrection in July of 2021 and KwaZulu-Natal went up in flames and nobody could get anything and the port was disrupted? Now, it's just typical mealy-mouth ANC nonsense. They're itching for a way to control the country, and they brought the state of disaster back after they just suspended the what I think is immoral and certainly, in my view, unconstitutional, endless, perpetual, I know that's redundant, endless and perpetual, but you get it, disaster that was going on for 25 months, and they're finally forced to back off that. And here's a golden chance to re-implement it. It's disgraceful. It was a provincial disaster that was done already by Zikalala, and that's fine because it was epic. But this whole thing is so frustrating. No helicopters. No helicopters. They only had 2 helicopters available, which came from the Eastern Cape. No SANDF bases in KZN with any airlift capability. We've already seen that only 21% of the South African National Defense Forces airframes are operational, according to a report to Parliament. And that's what the military tells you. And they fudge their numbers. Trust me, I was in the Army. People fudge their numbers. Dumo, are you still there? Uh-oh. Am I still on? Folks, am I still on? You guys still hear me? I lost Dumo. Folks, give me a thumbs up if you hear me. I don't know if I'm still broadcasting. Yeah, Dumo dropped off. I think he just got load shedding. Yeah, he's frozen. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Matthew. That was weird because it just went quiet. I think he must have got load shedding and lost his power. So yeah, he probably was done in by load shedding. So we'll give him a chance to come back. I suspect it was load shedding. Anyway, folks, yeah. So we're just getting into the floods. That was going to be an interesting story. Thank you guys for letting me know I'm still live because I couldn't see it here. And of course, I can't hear myself on the broadcast unless I take my tablet out and then I get an echo. So yeah, thank you all so much. Yeah, exactly. This is just what happens in South Africa. South Africa has 52,000 megawatts of installed electrical generation capacity. And at any given time, 35 to 40+% of that is out, either for unscheduled maintenance, scheduled maintenance, or just failures. And why is this? Well, this is because of a poor investment. It's because they chased away qualified engineers based on their skin color. It's because the company was captured in the state capture era, and they diverted money to fictitious contracts. Oh, here he comes. He's coming back. Okay. And so it's pretty pathetic for a country like South Africa, which once produced almost half of the installed electricity delivered in sub-Saharan Africa, that at any given time it can only produce at best 50%, 55% of its installed capacity, 52,000 megawatts. Anyway, so Dumo, was it load shedding or something else?
So what happened was, right, this is a very interesting story, guys.
Okay, go ahead.
So when the show started, I was being load shedded, and then the generator was on. So now we got the electricity back. Now what happens is that when the electricity comes back, there's a transition period. So the power goes off when it switches from the generator to the main electricity. So that's what happened. That's why I got cut off there. I thought it was going to be for longer, but anyway, yeah.
Well, listen, Dumo, in 1984, when I was a young soldier in the Army, I used 2 5 kW generators. And we have a master switch because you have to switch from one generator to the other because you only run them for so many hours. And that switch is tight because it transfers the power instantly. They make those things in 1984, so maybe we could sell them in South Africa so you don't have that problem when you switch from the generator back to commercial power. But yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I don't know how they're done today, but there is a switch that will make sure that there's no break in that. So, but anyway, glad to see you're back. So it was definitely load shedding related, so I wasn't wrong about that, but it was kind of funny because you were like, just frozen there. Well, it was about 3 or 4 seconds. I noticed it pretty quickly, but you know, I mean, whenever you're on, because you're always looking at your screen, looking down, it's almost like, you know, I'm like, is Stevie Wonder on the program? I don't know if he's blind because I never see his eyes. He's always like this, ebony and ivory. Anyway, no, so I had to look to see, but it was pretty clear you were frozen. Anyway, so we were talking about the floods, and I forgot where we were at. So, again, my point is that so much of what happened was preventable, not the rain. You can't stop that. And if you want to talk about climate change, fine, whatever. But that isn't germane. The issue here is people would have suffered. But the bigger issue here is that authorities knew full well, authorities in the African National Congress who ran Itaquini, who ran the KZN, who run the national government, know well that people are building homes inland. Now, what's interesting about this is that for the better part of 20 years, whenever squatters would build squatter settlements on private property or on state-owned land, the ANC would clear them off. And we've seen this time and time again. They would do this over and over again. But ever since 2017, they've largely backed off of that. They don't do it as often for whatever reason. Now, they still do it, especially in Joburg. They'd like to send the red ants out in Joburg and remove people and steal their mobile phones and beat them up and take money out of their purse or their pockets and destroy homes that were built 7 years ago. Now, I'm not defending squatters and squatter rights because there's no such thing in my book. But the point is that they've traditionally moved people, but they haven't done this. These people in these floodplains, allowing people to build a informal community there is a failure of governance, and it's a failure of the state. And so what happens, they bear responsibility for this. Now, I will say this. I think the Democratic Alliance dodged a bullet. They've got enough trouble, especially John Steenhusien busy finding out what's going on in Lvov right now. Yes, I'm here in Lvov, and it's safe here. We're not near the war zone. We're already over here. But anyway, John's up there in KZN, or not in KZN, in Lvov. I think the DA dodged a bullet. Remember, after the municipal elections, the Inkatha Freedom Party said they were going to join a coalition with the DA to oust the ANC for the first time ever in Durban. And then I don't know what promises were made, what happened, but they changed course. They changed tack. Now, since November, the problems that exist in Durban would not have been resolved had there been a non-ANC coalition running the city. So the non-ANC coalition would bear the stink and stain of this disaster right now, even though it's not a disaster they're making. So I think the IFP ought to have buyer's remorse about their coalition in Durban, but I don't know. That's we'll see what happens there.
Right, that's a good point. I think, it's a blessing in disguise. Now,
see, I would have shared that point had I been invited on Big Daddy Liberty. Anyway, he only invites me when it's about war and death.
Oh no, I'll ask him. Let's see. Okay.
Nah, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I think I think given that point, I mean, you're right. The DA did actually dodge a bullet. And I think they should have actually, if I'm not mistaken, Helen Ziller actually took advantage of that, right? When she said that people in Langa have, they're far better off than people living in other townships in South Africa.
They went after her for that one too.
Right. And, and I don't know, was that in reference with the floods? I think so, because there was a flood. Was there a flood in Cape Town? Something happened in Langa, I forgot. Homes were destroyed. It was a fire. I think a fire broke out, right? Yep. A fire broke out, yes. And then, they provided relief and so forth. And she just said that, look, I mean, it's not that people in Langa are rich. It's just that because of our good governance, people in Langa live in better conditions than other places in South Africa or other townships. And she might have been right there, And I think, in my opinion, that's the way that the DA should have played that political game. They should have played it like that and done it a bit more often. But again, because of the fake narrative that surrounds the DA, now they're very scared to say things. Because remember when John Steenhusien was in Phoenix? Yes. And he defended those posts where they said that they called you racist, but we called you heroes, something like that, along those lines. Yeah. And then they had to withdraw that statement and so forth. And I just think that for me, I don't know whether if withdrawing the statement was the right decision.
It was not. First off, it shouldn't have been made in the first place. That was stupid by the provincial party. And actually, I had Francois Rogers on, who's the DA KZN leader. I had him on, but we were talking about the floods, and I didn't bring that up. But I mean, that might, if I get him on again, that might be a thing to bring up, because it was the provincial leadership that came up with that poster for Phoenix. And if you're going to do it, then, I mean, the DA should have come out and immediately said, no, this is not representing the party, and someone's been sanctioned for this. But it was out there. there's nothing wrong with the statement as long as it's clear the intent. But allowing the media to run with painting it as a racist statement for a couple of days and then withdrawing it just reinforced the idea that it was racist. And
yes, that's
the thing. So I mean, you've got to be, as a leader of a political party, and you've got to have a good strategic communications public affairs team, and they've got to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When something goes wrong at 2 o'clock in the morning, you got to take a phone call, and you've got to be briefed for 10 or 15 minutes, and you've got to address it. And you got to come off the right way. Otherwise, you can't recover from this stuff. And that hurt the DA in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, they did okay there, and Chris Pappas did amazing well, but I think that has a lot more to do with Chris Pappas and his popularity in that area. By the way, Chris Pappas, I had a hard time reaching him during the campaign. I interviewed 8 different parties and a lot of candidates from these parties, but I was never able to get him. But Francois Rogers, public affairs person, is moving to be working for Chris Pappas here this week. So I may be able to get Chris Pappas on here sometime soon, which will be interesting fellow. So we'll see what's going on there. But no, the DA is, we're talking levels. I've always said to people that the EFF, when people are panicking, it has a threshold, a peak of 15%. It will not go above 15% in elections. That's what I told, national elections. Never going to happen. There aren't that many stupid people in South Africa. That's what I always say. There's stupid people everywhere, but there aren't that many stupid people who are going to go vote. So 15% is the, and they've never come close to that in a national election. They've got over 10%. They haven't got there. And they've been around for a decade now. So with the DA, I thought the DA under Helen Zille was on a trajectory that they could get 35 to 40% of the vote if they prove themselves. And I thought the 2016 municipal elections gave them a golden opportunity for that. Unfortunately, we saw what happened with their coalitions, and South Africans love to talk about coalitions now. But and I had Dr. Peter Groenewald on. He talked about coalitions yesterday, and from his perspective as a smaller party, those are appealing things. But from my perspective, as someone concerned about governance, coalitions are not the answer. Now, that may be a national thing that comes up, but the problem with coalitions is that the kingmaker rules. You have a party. Look at Gayton. Was it McKenzie, the Patriotic Alliance guy, whose feelings were hurt because somebody. So this is the DA shooting themselves in the foot again. Some of the DA says, "Well, this guy's a thug." Look, we know he's a convicted felon. We know that. Get over it. You have him and his party in 2 coalitions where you're only ruling because they're there in the Western Cape. So shut your mouth. I mean, he isn't doing anything criminal now. Who cares about what he did 20 years ago? I do care, but he's elected. Get over it. It doesn't do anything. And so now he's like, we're going to pull out these coalitions. The DA, it's an own goal all the time with the DA. Like the poster in Phoenix, this thing, open their mouth about McKenzie. They do it all the time. Anyway, I got off where I was going with this, but it's just so frustrating to see political parties do this. Oh, yeah. So governance. So to me, at the municipal level, you need an outright majority, 50 plus 1. If you have 50 plus 1, then you control the levers of the town. Now, there's things that come from the national government, provincial government that affect you, budget and things. You don't have control over those, but you do control how your city performs. If you got people that are sitting down on a job, sack them. If you got people who are getting things done, promote them. If you got people who got talent, you do things. If there's a service outage, deal with it, which you have competency over. But if you have a coalition, you have 48%, you have to rely on a minor party with 1 or 2 seats like we saw in Nelson Mandela Bay, you get disastrous governance because then you have to do what they want, give them what they want. And if they're not an honest party or an honest politician, you've got problems. And so win 50 plus 1, which is what I told people in municipal elections, South Africa. I said, go vote for the party that has the best chance of getting 50 plus 1 to unseat the ANC all over the country. If that's the DA, vote for him. If it's the Freedom for Plus, if it's Inkatha Freedom Party, vote for them. Now, they weren't listening to me, but people in KwaZulu-Natal clearly took that approach and abandoned the ANC and voted for the IFP, and that's why it did so well there. But the point is that you have that. Now, if you get 50 plus 1, you want to form a coalition with minor parties that follow the rule of law, that care about governance, that care about the citizens, then do it. Let's say the DA wins Knysna, okay? They win Knysna in the Western Cape. They get 50 plus 1, okay? What's this? Sorry. I just got a text message. I'm judge of election. I just got a message came across my screen from someone I wrote to 3 weeks ago. Just told me they can't do the election. Well, thanks. That's a bit late. Anyway, but if you're nice and your DA, you win 50 plus 1, then you can approach the Freedom Front Plus and ACDP and others and say, listen, we have similar values. We would like to have a stronger, a coalition in government. We'd like you to be part of the team. Would you like to join us? And then if one of them says, well, I don't like what we're doing, we're going to take our toys and leave, then go ahead and leave. You still have a coalition. You still have a ruling party. So that's the problem with coalitions. And I don't think South Africans are really grasping that, because you are held prisoner to a small number of counselors from small parties. But anyway, so that was a long soliloquy about a bunch of things. But the bottom line is, with coalitions are not the answer at the municipal level or provincial level. Maybe at the national level to work to get rid of the ANC, and that'll be a start. But here's the thing. If you're part of a coalition, what do you tell your team? What do you tell your constituents? Well, look, I deliver this. Yeah, you and the DA and the ACTP, Anyway, so you get my point.
Right. Yeah, man. It's coalitions. I think from a optics perspective, coalitions seem nice because people are sick and tired of the ANC and stuff. So they want to see the ANC getting punished in some way or the other. But again, you're right. Whoever plays kingmaker is the one that actually rules. And they may make them, and they know they can make ridiculous demands and really pull you, because they know that you need them for specific purposes and so forth. And the DA saw that right back in 2016. EFF voted for them in like almost all of the mayoral elections, right?
Yep.
And look what happened. One day they just decided to punish the DA and they pulled out. So yeah, coalitions really can be a bad thing. But that's why I agree with you on that point, that you need to get a 50+1. You have to get a 50+1 majority. That way you don't have to worry about smaller parties making things worse for you. And that's why you can see in the Western Cape, DA can do that because they got a 50+1 majority.
Yeah. R1 just asked a question in the chat. I know I haven't got much of the chat today. R1 said the ACDP opposed abortion. What about the Freedom Front Plus? They also oppose abortion, to my knowledge. That sort of came up with Dr. Groenewald there. It's a party that has a lot of founding principles are based on faith. Anyway, but we talked a lot with Dr. Groenewald, and I mentioned, the outdated image of the Freedom Front Plus, because they think of Constantine Viljoen and the Freedom Front at the end of apartheid and how he formed the party. But that is not what the party is today, and they haven't been for several years. And a lot of people, black, white, and brown, are taking a closer look at the Freedom Front Plus. I'm not here as their spokesperson. I got issues with the party, like every political party. But anyway, so we talked about that yesterday. It was interesting, that conversation. But so what's going on in your part of the world? Other than, driving on what's left of the road and dealing with load shedding. And how are you doing, Dumo? We don't really do the personal aspect of this. How's life for you? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, man. I think, life's getting better a bit. Things are happening, which I'm happy with. I'm just happier right now. That's the thing.
That's awesome.
I know that besides the craziness, but yeah, I'm actually happier.
Well, some of the craziness is being tamped down, at least for the moment. UK is not requiring tests to come in the country. You can fly in the UK without a PCR test. That's a start. That's one country that's got their head screwed on straight for the moment. I think you guys are still required to have a facial mask in indoor settings.
Right,
sort of
right.
Thing. So things aren't quite right, but they're getting there. I don't know. I don't even know how that's the case. No. By the way, notice, and I need to get Rob Hutchison on again maybe tomorrow, because we usually do that on Thursdays. But notice how the conversation about the Health Act being amended has just disappeared. I haven't seen any news coverage. I haven't seen any social media discussion about the regulations. Of course, we saw a lot of stuff about here's the period, and Joe Pala, the health minister, extended it for like a week or 10 days till like April 24th or something like that. And since then, it's like the 30 days are over, man. The 30 days that Cyril said, which, by the way, weren't legal. They just did it. But even those 30 days over. So technically, you shouldn't have to wear a facial mask in a place. There's nothing unless they could not have taken this and made it law yet. So technically, you shouldn't have to wear a facial mask. But I see people in my chat talking about they're being harassed going into facilities. But there's no requirement in order right now, to my knowledge. Technically, what did I miss?
Right. You might have missed something, Chris.
Okay,
and I thought you would have known this. maybe I'm interpreting this thing incorrectly. But on my Twitter, I actually bookmarked a tweet that was shared. It was from Business Insider.
Yep, that's a good site.
And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read certain snippets. The name of the article is that the rules, I'm not going to say that word, but the rules, the spicy cough rules and SA's mask mandates won't be allowed to lapse tonight. That's what the Department of Health is saying. So here are the key points. The first one is that South Africa's mask mandate and all remaining spicy cough rules, they expire tonight. Okay, that's the first point, which you've mentioned. But then they say, but a last-minute update is due, the Department of Health said on Wednesday, which is today. The sudden dismantling of the state of disaster left a 30-day window for new health regulations to be finalized, and they turned out to be controversial and so forth. And then basically Nicholas Crisp, who is every time I hear that name, my blood boils, because like I heard him speak about the NHI and everything like that, and really, the way he talks about it's very condescending and stuff like that. Really doesn't get the concept. Well, he doesn't really understand what can go wrong or what will go wrong with single payer healthcare. But anyway, what he said was that according to the article, it says that all remaining restrictions originally imposed by a national state of disaster are due to expire tonight. But before that, there'll be new regulations. Nicholas Crisp, Deputy Director General at the Department of Health, said late on Wednesday morning. So it looks like that there are going to be some new regulations that they're going to shove in tonight. If they don't get it done tonight, I think what they're going to do is they'll probably do it tomorrow or sometime this week or next week, and then they're going to backdate it. That's what they're going to do. That's what I think they're going to do.
The problem with that is there's no basis in law for them to make up regulations. They could get away with that nonsense during the state of disaster because it allows latitude to put measures in place to alleviate the state of disaster and talk about, driving a truck through those regulations. But that's what they got away for 25 months. What are they going to do now? Say that you continue to wear masks because of the floods in KZN because now we have a national state of disaster. They have no authority to implement these. They have rescinded the state of disaster. They had no authority to extend it for 30 days, according to the Disaster Act. If you read it carefully, it doesn't give a 30-day grace period. They just made that up. Now they're making stuff up. And quite frankly, if they harass or arrest someone, there's no legal basis for it whatsoever because you can't simply make a regulation. Regulations don't have the weight of law. A regulation applies. A company can do that for how you do things in the workplace. That's a regulation. A sports league can do that. People can make up rules to go on property, that sort of thing. But you cannot prosecute someone for violation of law for something that's not a law. And they've gotten away with it for 2+ years under nonsense. But there's no skirt to hide behind this time. Mama is not there to protect you. Mama Ramaphosa is not there to protect you. This can't stand, and it can't simply be they promulgated new regulations. They have no authority to do it. Now, if they want to invoke a state of disaster and then say by midnight, well, then they can deal with the political backlash. But they have no, and I'm not an attorney. I'll reach out to a couple of attorneys I know in South Africa and get an opinion on this. But they have no legal basis for this whatsoever. But they're going to try it anyway. And you're right. They're gonna say these are the regulations. And guess what? 57 million sheep in South Africa will just do what they're told to do. Yep.
Right. Agreed. And I just think I think there's going to be some legal challenge on this. And
absolutely,
I really do think that they're most likely going to lose it. They might. And then if they do lose, it's going to really look bad on them because remember, DSA did say they're going to take them to court if they didn't remove the national state of disaster. And then what these guys did, they said, okay, we're ending the national state of disaster, but it's going to be around for 30 days, and they know very well that 30-day period, they won't get any litigation done and stuff like that because the courts also are backlogged with other issues that they have to deal with in other cases that went before that started before. So they know that's not going to happen. And they just want to shove the regulations down people's throats. And if they do shove it down people's throats, look, I'm not an attorney or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that someone can challenge whether if this thing is constitutional or not. Because remember with the Arto Act, they said that if you get so many demerits, they can take away your license and stuff. Yeah. And then I think a court ruled that something like that is unconstitutional.
Yep.
Exactly. So I think if they say that, you need to take a certain medication for the benefit of public health or whatever, one could probably challenge that and say it's unconstitutional. Yep. And at least then, and even the wearing of masks and stuff like that as well, they can probably argue that that it is unconstitutional in some respect. But maybe that's going to be the case. But It's just that I just feel that the advice that these guys are getting is not the right one. Because, I mean, again, UK, they're removing the stuff. Everywhere around the world, they're removing it because they know the battle is lost.
Yep.
You know, just take the L and move on. But they're not going to do it. They're really going to fight to the end. But South Africans, we are very good at not complying with stuff. So
especially in the townships.
Exactly. I'm not encouraging non-compliance. I am not saying that people should not comply, but it's pretty evident that people are not going to comply because look at e-tolls. Remember e-tolls? What did they say? If you don't pay them, you go into jail. Guess what? You know, people have not been paying them and no one has been prosecuted. So I think even if they get these health regulations into law, no one's going to, not me saying no one, very few people are going to implement it. Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. But listen, Dumo, you're not an attorney, but do you play one on SABC? Dun dun, Law and Order with Dumo Dega. I think execution is in order for this offense. So if it's the UK, we'll give you life, which means you can murder somebody and 15 years later you're paroled. Life is not life in the UK. It's a pretty crazy place.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah, no, it's we'll see what happens, but that's why I brought it up, and that's why I was hoping we could do a show today. We get around to that because it's the 30 days has lapsed now. We've hit the 30-day window. It's time to see what the ANC tries to cook up now. But you know, I'll tell you, 30 days, the ANC is capable of accomplishing one thing in 30 days. I mean, they can't deploy to Cabo Delgado in 30 days. That took 4.5 months. And by the way, the Rwandans were there in 4 days after they were notified they were going. But the South African Defense Force and the rest of SADC took 4.5 months to get there. But the only thing they can do within 30 days is steal. That's all they're good at within 30 days. They're very effective at stealing. They've worked it down to an art. I mean, we go from the early days of ANC theft of Tony Yengeni getting a discount on a car loan and going to jail over that. It's to rather sophisticated, multi-billion, trillion rand of theft from Eskom, Transnet, Nkandla, the oil gate, arms gate, travel gate, I don't know, gate, they really have become quite efficient and proficient at stealing from the South Africans. And it's really sad because such a small number of South Africans actually contribute to the tax base. Most people, 46% of the country lives on public assistance. I mean, that's so the ANC, when they were talking about, celebrating on the 27th of April, it's been 28 years. Yeah, congratulations. We've got post-apartheid new dispensation. That's wonderful. But what is the ANC proud of? We have brought you homes, RDP houses, which you hold the title to, and you can kick me out if I don't do what you say. Okay. And they're like the size of a salty cracker box. That's how small they are. So RDP houses. We also brought you education. Really? I would argue that virtually every South African has abysmal education except for those who can afford exclusive private schools compared to 1994. I'm talking black, white, and brown. That not only did they not maintain the schools where whites and others went to that were outstanding, they ruined those and didn't do anything to improve the rest of the schools. So they've just dumbed. I mean, you can get 30% in 2 subjects on the matric and go to university.
That's
How
crazy.
is 30% considered passing in anything? Except baseball. Yeah. Baseball, if you bat 300, that's impressive. But, come on, man.
Well, I mean, in basketball, a 30% three-point percentage is not bad as well.
Three-point percentage, but not a field goal percentage, and certainly not a free throw percentage.
No, free throws have to be in the 90s.
Exactly.
Mid-range, at least 60. 3 points, below 50 is fine. Below 50, but not less than 20. Yeah.
But we've identified the only 2 places where less than 50% is success, not in education. Yeah, and then the other thing was they said, and we brought you basically what's the word they use for it? But anyway, they talk about the SouthAfrica my word for it, public assistance, welfare. So they're proud that 46% of South Africans are on the welfare rolls. I would be ashamed of that. When Barack Obama was president, this idiot crowed, we have 50 million Americans getting food assistance. Are you not embarrassed and ashamed that 50 million Americans are drawing food stamps? That is horrific. Right. I would be proud to say that we had 50 million Americans when I became president. Today it's 26 million.
Yeah.
Because that would mean that 22 million people have moved up the economic ladder and no longer qualified for them.
Right. And if you think, I remember when Trump, when he made his inauguration speech, one of the things that he did say was that we want to get more people off welfare,
Yep.
and get them jobs and everything like that. And then he chanted America first, and then everyone said, "Oh, Hitler," But anyway,
racist.
Jeez, but I mean that should be the objective. I think if you ever become a president of a country, because I remember I spoke about this with Robert Dagan, and he said that the thing about the problem with welfare is that it can always be used as an election ticket, and the government has every incentive to keep people on welfare if welfare recipients can vote. But if welfare recipients are not allowed to vote, it's another story. But I think there's another way of handling that, because the solution that I got from that conversation, and I'm not saying this is his solution, but the impression that I got was people who are on welfare should not vote. And I was just like, ooh, I can understand where you're coming from. And yes, that may be the solution, but it doesn't come off right.
No, I don't think
it sounds arbitrary.
I don't think it's a solution either, because I mean, listen, some people wind up on public assistance through no fault of their own. I mean, the lockdown is a perfect example. Government shut down the aviation industry. People lost their jobs. That's not their fault. They didn't fail to work. They didn't. It isn't because they didn't work hard. Isn't because the company they were working for wasn't making money, because it was making money. So the government denied aircraft the ability to carry passengers. So I mean, and look at all the restaurants and hotels in South Africa that are gone forever, collapsed, gone, disappeared. And that's not a personal failing. See, the thing about welfare, what's implied in that by people who are conservatives, and I'm a conservative, but what's implied in that by people who are conservatives is that welfare is a consequence of personal failure. Well, oftentimes it is, but it isn't always. It isn't always. But how do we deal with this before the Great Society, and that was Lyndon Baines Johnson, or before the New Deal from King Franklin Roosevelt? Before then, communities dealt with this. Civic groups, churches. We have soup kitchens. We have churches that take care of families, that provide housing, and provide clothing, and things like that. That's how we did it. But that's all been turned into the power of the state now. And that's just so wrong. It's so wrong. If someone's down on their luck, there's nothing wrong with empathy and helping them. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes. But there's something wrong with taking my money and giving to people into perpetuity who don't attempt to get out of that situation. And that's what we've seen in generational welfare here in the States, and we're seeing it in South Africa now. People not even interested in doing something because they have an expectation, a sense of entitlement. Someone owes them something. Nobody owes you anything. You're born into this world after, a egg is fertilized and a mother carries you to term successfully. You are born either through the canal or cesarean, but you are born almost pretty much the same way. One of those two ways. Someone nurses you, feeds you, clothes you, bathes you, and hopefully teaches you right from wrong and raises you to adulthood. And you get an education along the way, hopefully a decent one, depends where you're at. But no one owes you anything. There's no such thing as a human right to a house, no such thing as a human right to this, that, and the other. No. Your right to human right, you have a right to exist, you have a right to breathe, you have a right to eat, you have a right not to be attacked. Those are rights. But the rest of the stuff is all gravy. I mean, we don't come out of the womb with an emergency medical team built. We don't deliver a hospital with ourselves, or cancer doctors, or cardiothoracic surgeons. Those are people who learn skills in our societies to improve the human life. But it's not a human right, and people confuse these things, and it's really frustrating. But what bothers me about all this stuff is that, see, I've been all over the place. I've never been rich, but I've been very poor, and I've been middle income, that sort of thing. And when I was very poor and we had no electricity, not because of ESCOM, because we couldn't afford electricity, we had no plumbing. I fetched water from a cistern, and do that in the wintertime with the water splashing from the bucket on your jeans, walking down the hill, turning to ice in the wintertime. That's not fun. Used an outdoor privy, which we call it outhouse. And when I went to college, I didn't have any money. So the way I went to college is based on income, not skin color, but based on income, I applied. And since the income was so low in our family, I qualified for the maximum amount of grant money that the government would give to people who had low income to balance out so that everybody had a fair opportunity to go to university. The only thing I had to do was apply myself in high school, apply for the grants. I got the grants. I got the student loan. I went to university on that. And I was in university with people who were fabulously rich, who lived in the same dorm as me. And I worked the cafeteria and such. But my point is that people can be down on their luck, and we should avoid the perception that welfare is all failure. It isn't all failure. But we should never be proud that half our population lives on public assistance. That means there's something fundamentally wrong with our society, with our economy, with our governance. That is just wrong.
Yes. Agreed. And I think for me, that's the case, is that we should help people that need assistance. We should do that. And I think with regards to, I think private charity for me is a much better solution, because private charity has limited resources, and because there's limited resources, they can, and I'm not saying now, okay, now I need to choose my words here, but they can assess whether if their contributions are really going to the right people. Okay. Now, when I say that, sometimes, you can contribute and people go through rough patches and stuff. And then, you can choose whether to continue funding or not. But if people are just really squandering it and they're really they're not really trying to better themselves, then you can withdraw the funding. Because I know some charities actually do that. Like, if you want to have a house with them, there's certain conditions that you have to meet. There's certain things you have to do every month, that type of thing.
Sure.
And private charity provides that. Then now, if the government wants to have some sort of welfare, I mean, I really don't think they should be involved. But really, if they really, really, really have to, I think they have to put some conditions on it as well. But the problem is that there's no incentive for them to do it, because they can always raise the taxes. Like, why should we hold them to account, when we can just give them more money and get free votes?
Exactly. And it works well for the ANC, because voters wrongly assume the money's coming from the ANC. It's not. The ANC doesn't have any money. It's bankrupt. It can't pay its employees at Latuli House. The money comes from the taxpayer. So the ANC may be the folks that overwhelmingly voted to provide that assistance, but that assistance comes out of your pocket, Dumo. It comes out of Koketso's pocket. It comes out of John Steenhuisen's pocket. It comes out of taxpayers' pockets. And that's what has to be remembered. And to me, there's a fundamental immorality of someone deciding to take away what I've earned for myself and for my kin to improve our situation and have a prosperous life, and give it to someone else without any condition, simply on the basis that they can do it. It's morally bankrupt in my mind. So listen, next time we're on, because it looks like they're going to try to implement unlawful regulations, we'll have to do this.
Right.
On our next broadcast, we'll be behind mask. So, I ate his liver with the Chianti and fava beans. Hannibal Lecter. I'm going to have to wrap up, because I'm going to go on that guy's show, Ronaldo. We haven't done Wednesdays with the Colonel in a month, because I was at the War College this past month. But I'm going to do that shortly. So let me give you a chance to anything you want to throw in here. And before you do that, let's see. Today is the 4th. If we try to do this in 2 weeks, that would make it 14, the 18th. Maybe we try to do it again in 2 weeks and see. Maybe we can get the rest of our team to show up for once. No, but we'll try to do it in 2 weeks if you're up for that. But let me give you the last word here, and then we'll wrap up and we'll hit the road tonight.
Yes, Chris, this was enjoyable. I really loved this one. I mean, we started 5:30. It's nearly 7 o'clock. So it just shows you had a great conversation. It flowed very well. And guys, just take this conversation in mind and just, vote for the right people, man. Just, participate in society as well. We shouldn't have a condition of apathy. Yes, there are things that don't go our way, but look, let's just try and make a difference in any way we can.
No, I think those are wise words, Dumo. And, it's what I like about us doing this is that it breaks a mold for a lot of people. First off, people look at me and they look at you. People make assumptions. And you know what? That's okay. It's a natural human tendency to make an assumption about somebody. It's different to act on that assumption. That's where the wrongness comes in. I mean, I might look at you and go, man, that guy looks like a gangster, but I could be wrong. You're not a gangster.
Right.
You can look at me and go, oh, man, that guy's in the Klan. Look at that beard, man. It's Cous de la Rey come back to life, No, but people can look at you and make assumptions. But what I like about our program is that we really just destroy that. I mean, this is libertarians and conservatives having a conversation about what's right and what's wrong in the world, and also having a little bit of fun along the way. I love to subvert expectations, and that's what I've been doing my entire life. People make a lot of assumptions about you based on where you come from, what you look like, and in my case, they're almost always wrong. Almost every time they try to say something about me, I've got a story that refutes everything they say. And what I like is, when I started my program a couple years ago, I had a lot of people who were very far to the right who migrated to my channel for some other channels. And I'd always get this nonsense about, well, look, what are we supposed to do? Black South Africans will always vote for the ANC. I'm like, no, that's not true. That doesn't even match the numbers we've seen in 2016 to 2019 from elections. If you look at Gauteng, you see the DA got 16% of the so-called black vote in 2019, even though they were an abysmal party. They were a terrible platform. But it's nice to have people from different backgrounds who can agree on similar things and point out the obvious stupidity. So we are subverting expectations of bigots and racists and people that are poorly informed. And that's what I like about it. So, and by the way, Dumo has never said no. When I've asked him to come on the program by himself or to do the Nako, he's never told me no. And for that, he's got my eternal gratitude, because it's nice to be able to rely on somebody. Now, I'm not throwing shade on anybody else who does or doesn't come on the program. So let's get that out there. That's why I'm
clipping this.
That's why I made the point of saying it. Dumo has come on, one of asked him to come on by himself and not part of this program. But no, he's always happy to come on and have a conversation, and that's really awesome. So anyway, Dumo, we're going to wrap it up there. I'm going to disappear and go to the reindeer guy, Ronaldo, and I'm going to give him lots of crap about John Steenhusien in the UK and Ukraine, and we'll see. The stream might end prematurely or abruptly. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Dumo, till next time, man. Take care of yourself, brother. It's always a pleasure.
You too. Cheers.
All right, let me put him in the waiting room, then I'll wrap up here. So it's always fun doing this. Okay, there you go. All right, folks, that was Dumo Denga, and this was Nako, the rise of Africa, or the call. I keep saying the call, the rise. It's the call of Africa. Sorry, I'm out of my game today. But Nako, the call of Africa. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to like it, share it with your friends and neighbors, let people know about this stream, and more interesting stuff coming along. So stick with us. Next week, the Ukrainian ambassador to South Africa will be on the program with me on Monday at a special time. So looking forward to that. It's a good chance to hear her perspective on reactions in South Africa and in Africa to what's happening in the Ukraine between Russia and Putin and Zelinsky. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. I'll be on Ronaldo here shortly, and then I'll decide whether I'm doing Night Owls, but I'll probably do a Night Owls later today here on the program. God bless and have a lovely day. Take care of yourselves. This has been Nako, the rise of Africa. Cheers, everybody.